What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Brewtally Speaking Podcast, the official podcast of MetalNexus.net, where you can get all your show reviews, concert reviews, photographs like Def Leppard, and so much more. And with me, as always, is Daniel Terry. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I've just been burnt by the sun, and it's nice. I mean, it's all my skin's on fire.
Well, you got to do like what Lit told you to do and just find a place in the sun, not to get burnt by the sun.
I know. The problem is I hear things wrong, and then I just do the wrong thing, and then I end up with my entire body feeling like I've been in a fire.
Well, see,
which is
you followed
really
Smash
disrespectful
Mouth.
to people that have been in a fire. Well, yeah, I mean, I was at Six Flags today, and yeah, I might as well have been walking on the sun. That is for damn sure.
Yeah, good pull. I'm glad you got it.
It's like, what, I'm an all-star now?
Speaking of a good pull, this episode's guest is Matty Mullins. He returns. We did this interview while they were doing a short run with Pop Evil a couple of months ago, and had a lot of fun talking with Matty. He's an always soft-spoken, very well-articulated gentleman in real life, and it's always fun getting to talk with him. This one is a little bit of a different kind of conversation. I would say, like the last one, we talked more about avenues outside of, the band that he was interested in pursuing, and this one is more focused on relationships and his relationship with his wife and, them working together and finding time to, be a couple outside of the work aspect of things. And this, really is a heavily influenced conversation based on the fact of, at that time, me having just quit my 9-to-5 job. But I do think that it's a really interesting conversation to have with someone who is so goal-oriented. I mean, I can't really imagine working so hand-in-hand with someone, especially your wife. I mean, I know the last thing I want to do after spending time of working with someone is to spend even more time with them. So I always find it fascinating when people are able to work with their significant others on something, especially when it's a business and it needs to, make dollars and cents and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's a lot of cool information in this, and I think there's a lot of a different side of Matty that you're not used to seeing in interviews and hearing about, and I think is just as an integral part of why he is who he is and what he does as, what inspired these lyrics.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to be able to look behind the scenes and kind of get an idea of what somebody's mindset is going into things. And to your point, I can't even work with my friends. Like, I couldn't work like an actual job with my friends, and get anything. Either A, in a best case scenario, we have a great time and don't get anything accomplished. And in a worst case scenario, they're not my friend anymore because I ended up doing a majority of the work, or they did. And it's almost easier to nitpick people that you already know than it is to nitpick total strangers, which is how companies are able to kind of like create like think groups and stuff and like get people together that they may not think that they work well together, but it actually turns out that they do. But yeah, friendships, it's rough. I've gotten my friends' jobs, places before where I've worked, and and again, like my significant other, I don't know if I could work with my wife on a daily basis like that. That sounds horrific. More so in that she would do a ton of work and then just be like, "You're a lazy piece of shit." It's kind of like me and John's relationship. It's very similar.
Well, I mean, I think, I don't know. It's really interesting because, like, I know this has been something, and this is like, I was saying and have been saying for the last, probably a couple of months, is, this is a question that you can kind of ask some people. Like we talked about it with Danny Warsnop, and he was just like, it's really hard, and I bit off more than I can chew on this tour that I was doing by trying to do the TM, and I was booking, and I was doing all these other things, and it just kind of gets to this point where it's actually really refreshing to hear people who I feel like are just killing it, and like you're like, man, you got it all. Like you're able to somehow balance your work life, and you can do all these like 4 different bands, and you got a side company, and you got like a a nice house that you're remodeling, and you and your wife are able to go on vacations and all this kind of stuff. But it's been really refreshing to actually hear a lot of people be like, it's fucking hard. And I'm still figuring out how to do it because I am completely in that same mode where I'm like, okay, there's got to be a balance and I got to figure it out. But it's great to hear, just like anything else in life, I guess, really, where it's like there is no set path that you can follow that works for everyone. It's all completely different dependent upon who the individuals are that are in this scenario. And that's really refreshing. And it makes me feel like when I feel like I'm overworking or overexerting myself in any direction, that it's okay, and that I can try to take a step back and just kind of go, it's okay. And you know what? If you feel like you're gonna get burned out, like go do something else, or just you don't have to like be going at all times. And I think that's kind of hard in this day and age now, like where we're always quote unquote on because of social media, that it feels like you have to be doing more than you can at times physically.
Well, yeah, and like we're not struggling because we suck. Everybody struggles, no matter what level they're on, and that's kind of nice. It's one of those like we're all in this together kind of moments.
Yeah, and you know what I'm not struggling with right now though is I know we've been kind of slacking on the beer, all that kind of stuff talk lately, but I have a Blushing Monk, a Founder's Blushing Monk. It is back in season, and it is very delicious. It is a Belgian style ale fermented with pure raspberries, and it is fucking delicious.
Where'd you get that from?
Founders.
Nice. I'm so dumb.
One of the best beer brewery companies in the U.S.
They are pretty damn good.
What have you been drinking this week since you've been out in the fucking hot heat like OMC? How bizarre.
A lot of water. Definitely a lot of water.
Are you a fan of like those Propels or like any of those like?
No, I've actually found it best just to stick with just plain old fucking vanilla water. That's not vanilla flavored. It's just like regular water, like from the fucking hose. And I actually like the way hose water tastes, so that could explain why my beer tastes are always a little bit off. But I actually did go out drinking on Wednesday night, and I got a really good beer called the Art of Neurosis, which is actually recommended me.
Scott Kelly's beer?
Well, it's no, it's recommended. I did think that there was a tie-in, but there actually isn't. But I was recommended that beer from my good friend Chris McCoy. Shout out to him, who actually bought it for me and was like, "Dude, I'm not letting you leave this room until you try this beer." And it was really good. It was kind of like it was like a smoother Space Dust. It just it went down a lot easier, and I wasn't completely drunk after drinking like 3 of them. So yeah, it definitely is one of the better beers local here to the Lou or to St. Louis, and it was a lot of fun to try that. And of course, I went right into my Logboat Snappers after that, and there was no looking back because I love Snapper, and it's getting to the point where it's actually starting to replace Space Dust, because as much as I like Space Dust, it just gets so citrusy sometimes that like your whole face swells up, and the last thing you want to do is drink something citrusy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I also want to apologize if you can. You may not be able to hear this when we get it all edited in post, so maybe this is for naught. But we are recording on the 5th of July, and assholes are still shooting off fireworks.
Yeah, they are.
So potentially you might be hearing some pop noises behind us. And
dude, they were going until like 3 a.m. On the 4th. It was insane.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. And as someone who has a dog who doesn't mind them, but it's still just annoying, like, because she gets riled up when certain high-pitched ones go off or whatever, or big booms, and it's like, ugh. And I can't imagine, like, having a child, like an infant or whatever, trying to sleep, and it's like, got all these fucking assholes shooting off fireworks at like 11, midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
It's not fun.
Sure isn't. But on that note, something that is a lot more fun than asshole neighbors shooting off fireworks at all hours of the night is our conversation with Matty Mullins. So let's get into that, and we will talk to you afterwards. So have the pleasure once again sitting across from Mr. Matty Mullins here in Detroit. The rain seems to have subsided. You brought the good weather with you.
Yeah, I hope. As good as it can be here, I guess.
It's been a little bit since we did this chat last time. You guys were on the Atreyu Ice 9 Kills tour.
Yeah.
And, damn, it seems like that just what a way to end it. Like, do a tour. Like, that whole thing was, like, sold out, basically.
It was unreal, man. I mean, we didn't really know what to expect confirming that tour. We're all huge Atreyu fans, but we hadn't been following, like how many people they draw or whatever for a while now. And so we were just like, man, let's go and do the tour because we love the band and we love the guys, and had no clue that it would be such massive shows. So it was a huge success.
I think the thing that was interesting to me, a couple of things, actually, was the fact that just the sense of camaraderie. Like, I mean, we were only there, I think we were about the middle of the tour at that point.
Yeah.
But, I think, with having Patrick making a cocktail of the day for, like, the whole tour and all of that kind of stuff, and just, it seemed like the whole tour got along. And I know maybe that's not always the case.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's got to just be really good to not only have it be a friendly tour, but have it be a successful tour.
That's
too.
the best thing in the world, man. I mean, and that's largely due to Atreyu and their camp. You know what I mean? Their crew and them as people, as the band members, right? I mean, they are so genuine, and they really wanted to connect. And I'm never upset when headlining bands are not like going out of their way to connect with the other bands, because we do this so often, you know what I mean? And you're meeting new people every month. And so it can be exhausting and mentally taxing to be having to do everything you have to do on top of like going out of your way to build new relationships. But when people do that, we always appreciate it so much, man. I mean, it's so awesome.
It was really rad because I feel like at that particular moment, the tour, I mean, it's like Ice Nine Kills obviously has been growing their brand for a little bit.
Totally.
But I feel like I remember telling my wife, the line for their merch was just at least 20, 30 people long
Incredible.
the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And seeing their set reminded me, conveniently enough, of when Atreyu put out The Curse. Like,
Yeah,
I was like, I feel
right.
like we're in this like weird moment where like this is the band that's going to transcend like for the next, 10, 15 years.
Totally, man. They're definitely having their moment right now, and rightfully so. I mean, they've been going at it for so long, and just grinding just as hard as any of us out here, any other band, and so to see them have their moment and have success is really awesome.
You ended up doing, basically from that, if I'm not mistaken, you went on a run with He Is Legend doing headline shows.
Yeah.
Is it kind of tough going from like a support slot to then doing a headliner like pretty much right afterward, like kind of getting the gears in motion of like, okay, now I got to play a little bit longer,
Man, I would say for the first like 5 years that we were a band, jumping back and forth between the two was miserable. I mean, you have this kind of like mindset and your body gets used to performing for a certain amount of time. Your brain gets used to remembering a certain amount of like songs and lyrics, right? And so it was tough, but these days jumping back and forth is not too tough as long as we're staying on the road, right? If we do a tour that's a support tour and then we're home for 3 months and then we go out and headline, then it's like everyone's out of shape, and you know what I mean? So that can be a lot tougher, but no, I mean, these days I feel like, we have it pretty down, and so we're thankful for that.
With this Pop Evil run that you guys are doing, I think it's a very small run.
Yeah, it's only a couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah. But I think speaking to Atreyu, Ice Nine Kills, Pop Evil, and He Is Legend, that's a very diverse lineup. And I feel like in the last handful of years, it seems like you collectively have been making a more focused effort to try to play more diverse lineups and getting in front of completely different crowds. Is that accurate?
From the jump, man. I mean, as long as we've been a band, we've wanted to do tours like that. And when the opportunity is there, we'll always take it. Like we did a co-headliner with Yellow Card. And people were like so confused by that, but the shows were awesome, so when it comes down to it, if the opportunity is there for us to tour with bands that people don't expect us to tour with, we're going to do it every time.
Do you feel that these tours, because I mean, I feel like with the latest record, you took some risks on this one. Do you feel like that album and getting on these tours kind of has paid off? Like, do you notice it, like the songs that maybe if you were playing something like this like 10 years ago, you probably would have been like, wow, that's way out of what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
But this new record seems to land a little bit more with like the Pop Evil crowd and so forth.
Totally, man. I mean, it's give and take. I mean, we have nights where, we're up there and just going 100%, and the crowd is like, I don't know who you are, like on a tour like this with Pop Evil. And that's the goal, right? Like, we're out here to play for people that haven't seen us or heard of us before, so that we can broaden our fan base. But what's rad is like when we have a night that we don't expect to go off and it's just insane. We played in Warrendale, Pennsylvania the other day, just like out in the middle of nowhere, right? It's outside of Pittsburgh, but still like it's out there. And it was amazing. I mean, the age range was 7 to 70. I mean, there's like some old guys in the crowd, and it just felt so awesome to know that we could captivate a crowd that's so diverse. And we're so thankful for our new record and the success that we've already had at radio with the old me, being able to bring us into those situations. So.
I saw that last night. I was back home in Grand Rapids interviewing Stitched Up Heart, who started basically the Godsmack Volbeat tour.
Oh, rad.
And they had just had their new single on, was it Test Drive?
Yeah.
And I saw that you, too, also had a song that just started on Test Drive as well.
Like yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So because to me, I'm old school. I remember when radio was the big push for everything.
Yeah. And
XM, while I know it's huge, it has millions and millions of subscribers, it still seems like an ancillary thing that isn't legit there, if that makes sense. It just kind of seems like, from a fringe perspective, it's I don't see it. I listen to Apple Music, I have Spotify,
right.
That it doesn't exist in the same way that I can turn on my radio still and I can hear songs.
Totally.
So what does the impact of getting a song on, a test drive or something like that, do you see instantly what that does for you as a band?
Yeah, you do. And Octane caters to a specific demographic, right? It's the people that aren't necessarily utilizing Apple Music or Spotify to stream and listen to playlists and stuff. It's the people that would listen to radio, but maybe they like the songs that Octane plays better than their local station, or maybe they live in a place where they don't have a local rock station. And Octane is there, and it's available, and they're playing their favorite songs. So it's those kind of people are diehard Octane fans, and we love the fact that they get to hear our music on Octane. So kind
of shifting up gears a little bit, I recently saw that you and your wife had a really interesting opportunity to go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
For the... have it written down. Provoke and Inspire. Is it a seminar, or what exactly is it?
Yeah, so, I guess just to be totally honest, I don't really know what classifies something as a seminar and what doesn't. But we were out there. It was a ministry opportunity, which was really cool. There was a guy named Chad Johnson that was the head of A&R for Solid State Records, Tooth and Nail, back when he signed Under Oath and he signed all these bands. And I got connected with him just a few years ago, and I loved his story and his background, and he was intrigued by mine as well. And so we met up and chatted and stayed in contact, and he works with this other nonprofit called Steiger, and they just go places and they just encourage people who are that have platforms that are influencing, or people that aren't, anybody that wants to come, just to live radically for ministry. And it's so cool. It's something my wife and I have been involved in for so long. So we went out there and we just hung out with a bunch of really rad people in Hawaii and swam in the ocean and enjoyed our time there and did that event. I will say it was my wife and I on stage speaking for 30 minutes. If that makes it a seminar, then yes, it was. But if that's not a seminar, then it was whatever it was.
Well, I don't know, and that was, it's kind of funny. You perfectly segued into it for me. What does doing something like that do for you? Because obviously you get to basically, I don't want to say preach, that's not the word I want to use, but you're basically on a stage or a platform getting to speak, your message that you've written down and relaying it to people every night, basically doing the band thing. So what does doing something like that in that kind of a medium offer you that maybe the band doesn't?
It's definitely not about what it offers me. I think that there's different avenues for different types of ministry, right? And for me, in this world, bottom line, when you start talking about Jesus, a lot of people get offended. And I totally understand that, because there's a lot of people that have been hurt by people that say they're Christians, and they just drag the name of Jesus through the mud, right? And so when people say I hate God, or I hate the fact that you're talking about God, what they're really saying is I hate that person that hurt me so much they claimed that they were doing whatever they were doing in the name of Jesus, right? And so I'm never offended by that. If you don't want to hear something about my relationship with God, that's totally fine. I totally understand that. So what I do out here on the road that's so cool, oftentimes in an environment like this, what's so cool about rock and heavy rock and metal is that people can come here and they feel like they belong. Oftentimes when those people don't feel like they belong at home or at school, and I get to come into these places that a lot of people come in with heavy hearts, and I get to just love on people and play songs that offer a message of hope, and talk to people outside by the bus and just hear their stories and encourage them. And that's a very specific type of ministry to me. I just love to love people. Whereas this seminar, quote unquote, in Hawaii was, very much focused towards people who were believers that just wanted to be inspired in that way and say, okay, well, this is how you guys use your platform to honor God. Like, I want to do that too. So tell me more about what you do. And so it's basically two completely different things, and it's just awesome to get involved in it. And there's the obvious, it was rad to go to Hawaii too. You know what I mean? So yeah.
What does getting the opportunity to share an experience like that with your wife, but also kind of, I was trying to find some videos of it or something like that to at least kind of get more of an understanding of what you two talked about.
Sure.
And I couldn't find anything, but it kind of made me wonder, obviously, I think a thing that we tend to forget about is the fact, you're out on the road for months on end. Your wife doesn't always get to share in those experiences, so you're basically just gone.
Yeah.
And you get to see parts of the world that maybe she won't, and photos and all that are great, but it's one of those that I feel like this is kind of a rare instance where you're able to do something together, but also kind of have a shared experience of this is kind of what I get to do in a completely different side, but this is get to travel, get to see things because of the message that I'm putting forward.
Totally, you're spot on, man. I mean, we definitely want to travel together when we're older and I'm not touring anymore, and go and see some of the things that I got to see and show her the world. And but as for now, it's almost impossible for her to come places with me all the time. I mean, when we tour Australia and everything, we're flying every single day, so bringing an extra person is an insane expense. And so when we get opportunities to go and do things like this together, it's my favorite, because she is so inspiring. My wife has a nonprofit and just has such an incredible heart for people and loves people and wants to help and inspire people. So I love when she gets the opportunity to go out and use those gifts as well. So to go and to do it together was definitely, that's the perfect case scenario for me.
With the seminar, and again, since I wasn't able to see what was said and all that kind of stuff, was there anything about whatever she talked about that maybe you haven't heard her vocalize before, and you're like, oh wow, that's cool?
Not necessarily. Even though we spend a good amount of time apart while I'm on the road and everything, we're so connected and we're so invested in each other's lives that before we went to go speak, we had practiced our speeches to each other and everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're very much each other's support system. So for us to not know about something that's happening in each other's lives would, has never been the case.
I'm actually kind of glad you brought it up like that. You've worked with your wife on a handful of charitable projects that you both are involved in, and she seems to be just as busy as you are. Something that I've kind of focused on, since we last talked, I quit my normal 9 to 5 to focus on this.
That's so awesome,
while
man.
doing kind of a side hustle that, is able to pay my bills and so forth.
Awesome.
But something that, in looking at your two's relationship is, seemingly you guys are very workaholic-based type people, goal-oriented based people, and always working. And I kind of was wondering, how hard is it to, especially when you work together on things, how hard is it to separate work from personal?
Almost impossible.
Okay.
It is so tough.
That doesn't give me much hope then that I'm not going to be able to do the same.
No, man, it's so tough, and I'm not going to lie to you. You know what I mean? We have, typically, when I'm home, we have 1 hour together at the end of the night. We hustle hard. You know what I mean? We both love everything that we do and everything that we chase after. And when we have an accomplishment, whether it's mine or hers or ours together, we celebrate it together. And it's awesome. But we both have entrepreneur mindsets. We both want to offer the best version of ourselves to the world. And I think that's one of the major reasons why we haven't had kids yet, is we are both running at capacity, 100 miles an hour all the time. Between running my hair product company and doing the band and having the solo project and writing songs for other bands, and now I just started managing a pop artist, all this stuff. I mean, it's chaos.
Oh, and don't forget Cameo.
Yeah, and Cameo. Luckily that only takes probably 15 or 20 minutes a day, which is sweet. But yeah, man, I mean, it's constant. It's constant for us. But at this point in our lives, I don't think we'd have it any other way.
From your perspective, kind of in me asking you as a married man who's just on the go all the time, what is something that you have learned maybe through love languages, I guess, as something that has been omnipresent in my life lately, talking about them?
Totally.
What is something that you have found works for you in relation to kind of be look, I know, I want to spend time with you, but I got to get this thing done. How do you articulate that, and how do you, I already said find the balance, but how do you basically just ensure that the time you're spending is quality time and not time where you're both still on your phones for personal time.
Man, it's so hard. We have very specific things that we do together. With cooking dinner, that's like off limits. Like no phones, no talk about work, like we invest in each other. We usually like have a certain show that we'll watch as well together that we can like, both get invested in and have conversations about. We're pausing it every 5 minutes and like, oh my gosh, like blah, blah. But man, it's tough. It's tough to have those conversations when it's like, hey, I really need time from you right now, And before my wife and I got married, when we were dating, and even in the early years of our marriage, her love language was absolutely quality time. And she has definitely transformed into words of affirmation because that's what I can offer. I'm gone so much, and when I'm home, we're running so much. And I don't think that this will last forever, man. I don't think that we can operate like this forever. I think that we're going to get a few years down the road and hopefully be in a place where everything can just kind of slow down. Right. But at this point, it's insane. It's kind of chaos. And I don't think that I have like one pretty answer as to how to solve that dilemma in a relationship. You just need two people that both can be very understanding about what we're trying to accomplish.
I think it's something I didn't realize when quitting a normal job and then basically doing this podcast and doing a side hustle thing that's sort of open to me 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
How hard I'm willing to work for myself.
Totally.
Which then the hard part is like, when I'm making money, I get competitive and it's like, okay, I got to fucking hustle and I got to go.
Totally.
And then it's like, if that's not going, then it's like, okay, let's edit episodes. Let's get, emails sent out, like just constantly going. And, it's like I realized in telling my wife that I was like, I feel like there is no one that I can blame now. It's solely on me. If anything fails, I have no omnious person that I can start blaming, like, well, this person screwed me over at work today. It's like, I screwed me up today because I didn't do this. I didn't do that. There's no one to blame. And as such, it's hard to just turn it off.
Totally. It is tough. And one thing that I've found as a business owner that's also tough, this is kind of like the yin and the yang to that, right? Is that when things are going really well, it can be really hard to be motivated to advance past that point. Like you're like, hey man, like this is comfortable and everything's awesome. And I feel like I'm at capacity, and you don't have a boss like breathing down your neck being like, I need more out of you.
Right.
It's dangerous. You can almost get comfortable in that, So it's either I'm going way too hard and working way too hard, or I'm slowing down because things are good. And it's like, where's that middle ground? Where's that, we have set time that we're going to spend with our spouses, and we have, this amount that we have to accomplish each day, regardless of how well things are going. And I'm not going to kill myself to accomplish my goals. I'm going to set this boundary that's healthy. That's all really tough stuff.
Yeah, it's something I've been trying to figure out a lot more in the last couple of months of doing it and looking at what you do. It's just like, I feel like you and I are very similar mindset, where it's just like go.
Yeah.
And so it's just been like I've noticed that I've kind of fatigued my partner out at times.
Sure.
As well as not probably taking the time to like adequately like get good sleep, because I'm like, oh well, if you're not sleep when you're dead.
Yeah, right.
But with that being said, On Point Pomade, you guys seemingly since last time I talked to you, like it seems like you have kicked that into another gear as well.
It's crazy, man. Yeah, I've hired this like strategic planner, this guy that like goes into businesses and is just like, all right, well here's where you're really thriving and here's where you're falling short. And what we're going to do is we're going to accelerate that area where you're thriving, and we're going to fix the problems where you're falling short. And just like hearing someone else describe these different aspects of my business made it so much clearer to me what really needed to be worked on. And so I think that what we're really wanting to do right now more than anything is like, well, okay, we sell hair product and people love the product. People know it's a good product. People know it's a quality product. We don't have to prove that anymore. But what we've lost when trying to focus so much on telling people about how great of a product it is that we've kind of forgotten to talk about the heart behind the product, right. And that's the whole reason why we started the brand in the first place. I love men's grooming products because I've always been interested in them because they made me feel more confident.
Right.
When I look my best, I operate my best, because I'm walking in skin that I'm comfortable in, and I know that I'm giving the best version of myself to the world, and that helps. And so at the root of our company, we make quality grooming products because we want to offer confidence. And that's not some BS like slogan. That's genuine. That's the reason why I loved men's grooming products. The reason why I started this brand. And so just getting back to the root of it and really sharing with people and being honest with people about, we don't want you to buy this product so that we can make money. We want you to buy this product because we know you're going to love it. And when you love it, you're going to feel better. And that's awesome. When you can be the best version of yourself, if we're aiding in that in any way, then we've succeeded as a company. So going back into that and figuring out how to do that and how to do that well. So, but then in turn, when you do that, it also ends up helping business because people fall in love with the brand. And so I think that's why there's so many really successful, honest businesses out there. There's obviously a lot of trash out there too, right? But people find out about that. People see through that. But, brands that people are really loyal to, brands that people are really in love with, they're in love with the story behind it. And so that's what we want to offer more of. So, yeah.
How hard has it been to go? I mean, they often say a band at your level is basically the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
So going into not only the hair care industry, but then even going into a more niche thing of men's grooming, not just, grooming in general,
Sure.
a product that is unisex and so forth. Which I guess, actually, I take that back. In today's world, everybody can get a different kind of haircut. So it is a unisex product. But
totally.
The fact that it basically is a niche market, and it seems like you're kind of finally, fine-tuning everything and breaking through into that world. How hard is it to not feel overwhelmed with either one? Because I feel like, I guess if there's an overall theme today, it's just how do you find balance in everything?
I think that I could easily feel overwhelmed at any moment with the band or with the hair care products. It doesn't matter where you're at in business. There's always going to be someone ahead of you. There's always going to be something more that you don't have that you want. And if you allow yourself to focus on those things and allow it to break you down, you can freak out about anything. You know what I mean? But what I try to do is just to be thankful for every season, like to be thankful for every moment and every place that I've been and where I'm at right now and where I'm going, and not to focus on, the red ocean, I guess is what you would call it, where there's a little piece of food and all the sharks are going after the same thing. We really try to focus with not only the business, but also the band, the blue ocean, where we can swim freely. We're offering something that not many people are offering, and we are being ourselves and we're being genuine. And there's people that love that and there's people that will support that. But as soon as you get into that comparison game, man, you start thinking like, oh my gosh, well, American Crew is selling 100,000 times the units that we are. And it's like, well, yeah, dude, but that's not what it's about. I'm not in this to compete. I'm actually thankful. I'm not a very competitive person. And I think that comes from, as a child, my mom and my dad, everything that I did, they made me feel like it was like the greatest thing in the world. And I was the youngest of 4. So it's like by that time they had already realized that that was probably the best way to parent. And it literally, I could do anything. Me and my friend Steven, we hitched a trailer, a small flatbed trailer to the back of a 3-wheel bike, and we put a couch on the trailer, and we were just riding up and down these streets in Spokane where we were from, and my dad made us feel like we had just like reinvented the wheel. You know what I mean? Like everything that I did, he thought it was so awesome. And so I don't have the failure complex that a lot of people grow up with. Whatever happens, and that's awesome. I definitely want to do the best that I can in every situation, but I'm not so much worried about my peers or competitors and what they're doing. I'm just happy to be where I'm at. So I find a lot of peace in that.
Kind of shifting back to the band thing, you were announced for the Disrupt Tour.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think you're on one of the 2 Warped Tour dates.
2.
You're on both of them.
2 out of 3, I believe.
Okay. I couldn't remember if there was 2 or 3.
Yeah,
I thought it was just 2.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, you guys are known for being on Warped Tour. You've done plenty of them at this point.
Yeah, man.
So what does it mean to you at this point now that, because I had been saying on the podcast for a long time, I think the thing people weren't latching on to was that it was the last full country tour.
Yeah,
Not
right.
that it was going to go away. So what does it mean to be involved in this new iteration of Warped Tour at this point?
Dude, I think it's done. I think this is the last.
You think this is it? They hit 25 and they're done?
These are the last because they're being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, really?
For the 25 years. They had to hit 25 years, I believe, to be the longest running festival tour in history. Okay. And so they're doing these shows and being inducted, and I think they're done after that. And I can't say that for sure, but from everything that I've heard and from the people that I know behind the scenes, I'm almost certain these are the last 3 Warped Tour shows of all time ever. So if there are more in the future, we'll be so stoked. But I do believe that this is it. This is the last 2 Raw.
Well, adversely, I think the Disrupt Tour is still a Kevin Lyman based thing.
It's not.
It's not. Okay.
Nope, it's
I figured
not.
it, since it was almost replacing like Mayhem, kind of. He
Right.
was
So
involved in that.
John Reese, who
Okay,
also worked
yep.
on Mayhem,
Yeah.
it's his festival.
Okay.
Yep.
What does it feel like to, kind of be one of the? I mean, it's a real like who's who of past and present and
It's
current.
so crazy, dude. Yeah.
And it's one of those that like when I saw the lineup, I was just like, wow, like it's got to feel really good to be asked to be the inaugural anything.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Dude, it's wild, man. I mean, when we got that offer, we were just so thankful to be anywhere in association with a lot of the bands on that bill, man. I mean, it's a huge honor. We've never gotten to tour with Thrice. We've never gotten to tour with Sum 41. It's like, dude, that's a dream come true. Like 100 dream come trues. I don't know.
Dreams come true.
Dreams come true. Yeah. 100 of those, all in one summer tour. And it's like, just to imagine like walking around and like getting off stage or whatever and being like, I think I'll go catch Thrice. It's like, man, that's amazing. Yeah. So Warped Tour was a blessing. And it was its own thing, and no one will ever recreate it. But we're thankful to have a tour that we can do this summer, and just to be out there with bands that we love and respect so much.
Obviously, that's going to take up. I think that takes you into fall. What does the rest of this year have for you? And secondly, something I've been kind of touching on since I've been doing so many of these so quickly. It's just a fun overlapping question for everybody because everyone answers it differently. Your record isn't old by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
However, we're in a world that's very kind of fickle and just on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Are you already thinking of, in the day and age now where there's like EPs, B-sides coming out or remixes of something like I just saw Harm's Way did like a remix album for their stuff that just dropped, I think yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was Friday. Still not used to that. And just seeing how like the industry is shifting into kind of creating content every so often musically, whether like I said it's B-sides, it's live versions of something or whatever. Are you guys already thinking in that realm, or you still think that the newest record still has like long legs like for another year or so?
The new record has a lot of life in it for radio. That's not to say that people who've already streamed it 100 times aren't over it, you know what I mean? But I mean, we just dropped our second single for radio. Literally yesterday.
Which is weird that it took that long for the second single.
It did, but
today's age.
It's a blessing because we had to wait because the first one was doing so well. We sat at the top 20 at Active Rock Radio for 6 weeks straight. And as like we just until it started to slow down, we couldn't drop another one because you can't really do two at the same time. So
Drake would prove otherwise.
What was that?
I said Drake proves otherwise.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely some an aspect where certain bands could put out a bunch of songs at once, but for us being new to Active Rock, it wouldn't have been smart. So we are definitely focused on the next single right now, but we've also already started writing new material. We're always writing new material. If I had it my way, we wouldn't even put albums out anymore. If I had it my way, we would drop a new single once a month. You know what I mean? Like write 10 songs and then just wait, put them out one at a time, because people's attention spans are too short, and people are so focused on like what the 1 or 2 songs are that are on a Spotify playlist or whatever, that the rest of an album doesn't even get any attention. It's like those songs don't even exist. So why are we writing them? So for me, it's like I would really love to take kind of the hip hop way and just drop a single every once in a while just to keep people involved and keep people stoked.
And lastly, where can everyone find you, the band? Anything else you would like to plug?
Yeah, sure, man. Find us online, social media. For the band, it's just /Memphis May Fire, For me, it's Matty Mullins. And for my hair product company, it's On Point Pomade. And if you have any questions, shoot me a DM or a tweet or whatever, and I'll be glad to answer it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for taking the time, and looking forward to the show tonight.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
So that was my conversation with Matty Mullins, the ever smooth-voiced Matty Mullins. It's funny, my wife and I have been running, I won't call it an inside joke, but, sometimes like when someone's kind of soft-spoken or, like I'll be like, oh, that person was really nice. And then she'll be like Matty Mullins nice? And then I'll always be like, well, what, it's really cool, and stuff like that. And I'll just kind of put on like my faux Matty Mullins voice. And it's like, it's one of those where it's like, when you try to explain to people how nice he is and like how his like, he just radiates positivity. Like, you can't help but like feel like, wow, I had a really good time talking to him, and like I feel like he really cared about me. And that doesn't always come across when you do some of these interviews. So it is just kind of an interesting quality that Matty has. And if you ever get an opportunity to see a video of him doing an interview, you'll 100% understand what I'm saying. And I think you can just hear it in his voice whenever you even hear an audio version of an interview. But he was super nice, always gracious with his time, and very thankful and appreciative that he was willing and open to talk so much about his, personal life, really, and his inner workings with his wife and their relationship. And I hope a lot of people are able to take something from this, whether you're in a committed relationship, whether you've been married for a long time, whether you are a goal-oriented person and just trying to succeed in whatever it is that you're doing. I hope there's something in this that you can take away from it.
Absolutely, but the biggest question I have to ask is, how did his hair smell?
I didn't smell his hair, but it was on point, as it always is, hence why he has on point pomade. He did tell me the last time we talked, though, he likes to get his hair cut I think he said every 3 days to keep it like that fresh haircut.
Damn, okay.
And in talking with my stylist that I go to, I probably go to my stylist like maybe every 3 to 4 weeks. And like, I know like right now, like it's been about 3 weeks for me, and like my sides need to be touched up, and like I definitely need to get my haircut like back in shape. Because when you have a fade and all that kind of stuff, like it definitely needs attention, and once it starts growing a little bit beyond the fade, it just looks kind of haggard. So I'm really envious that Matty always has like people taking care of and getting his hair looking all nice, because I mean, nothing feels better honestly than when you get a nice haircut and it looks good and it feels good and you just feel better about yourself going on. You're like, yeah man, like I fucking look good, I'm ready to tackle my day. I mean, it's funny because it's like Matty, like I was saying, like Matty is a very well-spoken, soft-spoken and nice individual when you just talk to him, and always feels like he gives you 100% attention, whatever he's focused on. And the other thing that's nice about it too is you just kind of look at him as you're talking, because like, I'm not staring at notes or whatever, I'm looking at the person I'm talking to, and you just kind of can't help, you're like, man, your hair just looks so nice. It's like, got that fresh cut to it. I'm jealous of that. And then like you like see him smile, and he's got like a nice smile, and you're like, really jealous of that smile. Oh, he's got really nice white teeth. Son of a bitch, you got it all.
Well, he's married, John. I mean, I know it sounds like you guys need to start dating, but
no, I don't think I need to have someone else in my life that's equally as busy, if not busier than me in my life.
This is true.
That's why our relationship works so well.
It does. I'm like, what are you doing? I don't know. You want to record a podcast? Yeah, I guess.
Grab a beer, let's do it.
Right.
The podcast, that is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the first time you said that, I was like, well, I mean, I could be there in about 7.5 hours. We'll see how it goes. You're like, no. Just grab a beer. We'll do a podcast. I was like, oh, okay.
So here's a funny thing, kind of getting our brand back on par. So recently my parents came up randomly, and they were like, hey, do you want to meet us at New Holland Brewery? And we're like, okay, sure. I have no idea why you're here on like a Sunday night or whatever, but all right. Or Sunday afternoon. So we ended up taking them to Atwater, because there was a couple beers there we were talking about. And the one beer my dad likes, and we make a running joke of it, is this company down in Kalamazoo called Gonzo's. They have a vanilla Java Porter that's really good. It's his go-to. He doesn't really drink a whole lot of craft beer, so like when he finds one he likes, like that's just what he dives into. Creature of habit and so forth. So we took him. I bought like a flight of 8 at Atwater. So basically, like I had almost one of everything, and had him try some, and he pretty much didn't like any of it. And I was like, all right. So then we went, I forget where we went after that, but we were talking, and then he's like, we were at New Holland, that's where we're at. And I had a Dragon's Milk maple oak or some maple oak or something like that. It basically is like French toast, Dragon's Milk. Because I think like once a month or so, like now the brewery will come out with a different flavor of Dragon's Milk. So there's, there's been the Bananas Foster, there's been something cherry hibiscus, there was a chocolate mint one that was really good. There's just been so many. And so my dad tried it and was like, oh, this is really good. And then I tried like this blueberry porter or whatever that was really good. And so like we got him going, and then he just kept going like, oh, do you think like this is going to be like, is this a mainstay? And we're like, no, this is kind of like a one-off. And he's like, well, if it does really well, are they going to keep it around? Is this a seasonal only? And that was like his phrase is this a seasonal only? And we're like, I don't know, dude. Like that's the thing with craft beer. Like once you start getting into it, you kind of realize like if you find something, unless it legitimately says on the thing, like this is the mainstay, this is what we make year round, all year round, then you're kind of like at the behest of whatever the fucking brewery is making, and that's why you try everything, because you might find something and then you just overindulge in it because you know that it's going to be gone. Like potentially the next time you go back, it might already be gone.
No doubt. Yeah, that I run into that here too, because a lot of the shit that I drink is all seasonal, and it can get a little frustrating because there's stuff that you'll kind of get a craving for, or like with me, I kind of like I get really bad about, like right now I'm really big on Snapper, and Snapper I do believe is year round now, but what I'll do is like I'm the kind of guy that if I try like a really good meal at a fast food restaurant, because I'm white trash, dude. I buy beer at gas stations and I eat fast food. So if you've ever seen my pictures, like it all makes sense. Like it'll all click into view. But the biggest thing is that like if something's really good and it's a sure thing, I just want to have nothing but that for the next week, or the next 2 weeks or whatever. So like if I come in on the tail end of a seasonal, like I'm just basically fucked for a year. And then a lot of the time too, like they'll turn around and be like, yeah, it didn't really sell that well, so we're not going to do it this season. And it's just like, fuck, okay. I'm just never going to taste that again. Okay.
Yeah, but it was kind of interesting to see how that goes. And my parents are going to come up, I think, in about 2 more weeks, and we're going to take them to Founders for their first time. So like, I mean, I know you have never been to Founders, but Founders is a bit overwhelming because now that they have a barrel aging house like down the road, they have and they've expanded their distribution and all that kind of stuff in their warehouse facilities. So they're able to just make so much more beer now and keep up with a lot of other shit, which will come into play in our next episode, as you'll hear. But it's one of those things where it's a bit overwhelming to see how much beer there is at Founders, where you're like, oh, that sounds good. Oh my God, that sounds good. Holy shit. And then like, even if you were to get a sample of everything, you're still looking at about 16 different beers at any given point that you're like, well, fuck, just give me like a little sample of everything.
Yeah, because you're going to be trashed by the time you're done with the sample plate, yeah.
Well, and then the other good problem to have is that they have amazing food there too. So it's like, you know, if you start getting trashed, then you get hungry, and then you like eat food, and then it's just a never-ending cycle of being like, oh God, I'm so full.
Yeah, I remember me and Jeff went up to Narrow Gauge Brewery for another podcast that we guested on, and I remember he let us sample, like it was like 8 beers he let us sample. We're like, oh, wow, that was really cool, you know, and we're feeling pretty good because they were pretty decent-sized sampler glasses. And then he's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let me go get the other ones. And we're like, what do you mean other ones? So he pulls out another, like, 8 beers. And we're like, oh shit. Okay. All right. So, yeah, we got done with our samplers, and we were just like, oh, cool. What do you guys get to eat around here?
Funny you should say that. We have this party platter mix.
Well, it's actually funny because Narrow Gauge at the time, I don't know if they still are or not, but at the time they were basically based in a unused portion of an Italian restaurant. So we ate like fucking kings that day. It was amazing.
Nothing goes better with craft beer than Italian food.
Oh my God, dude. It was incredible.
Then you get a nice hearty wine to throw over on top of it.
No, you know, we declined the wine. A funny story about that, actually. So I was working at a dialysis clinic at the time was my job, and I was in charge of disinfecting their water system, and that's like an 8.5 hour disinfect. So I'm not going to get too much into the details of that, but needless to say, I had scheduled to do that on the day we were going to go do the podcast at Narrow Gauge, and what was funny is I was like, oh, shit, I'm not going to be able to make it because I got this 8-hour thing. And I was like, it'd be really shitty to tell the guy I can't make the podcast because I have to work like at the last minute like this. So I went to work at 10 o'clock the night before and did the 8 or 9 hour disinfect or whatever. And the clinic was an hour away from my house. So I was up all night and I finished working. I drove home. And I think I slept on my couch for like an hour, and then Jeff showed up at my house and picked me up, and we drove out to Narrow Gauge and had tried all 16 of his beers and ate all this food or whatever. Dude, I was like, I was almost dead. Yeah, like it was one of the crazier experiences of my life. But no regrets, man. Narrow Gauge is one of the best fucking breweries here in St. Louis. So hats off to them.
We'll have to do a beer swap eventually, but speaking of swapping, let's swap out and start getting into the socials and wrap this episode up. If you would like to keep up with Memphis May Fire, you can find him simply enough on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Memphis May Fire. If you would like to keep up with Matty Mullins, you can find him on Instagram and Twitter at Matty Mullins. And if you would like to keep up with his On Point pomade, find them on Instagram and Twitter at OnPointPalmade. Simple enough. Look in the show notes. You can find all those if you are unaware of that. It was really funny to see Brandon Saller, who will be our upcoming guest, do a fun on-the-spot commercial for On Point with Porter McKnight of Atreyu's beard holding one of the pomade bottles or whatever. So it's a little bit it was a little bit funny to see that pop up in my Instagram stories the other day. If you would like to keep up with Metal Nexus, you can find them at metalnexus.net, Facebook at Metal Nexus, Instagram at metal.nexus, and Twitter at metal_nexus. And Dan will tell you where he can be found.
I can be found on Facebook under Daniel Terry. I can be found on Twitter at DiscussMetalDan. You can send me an email at discussmetaldan@gmail.com. You can also find my other podcast, Discography Discussion, at discussmetal.com.
And we're going to eventually get to another episode for the Patreon thing, but if you would like to keep up with the podcast as a whole up front, you can find us simply enough at BrewSpeakPod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Head over to our YouTube channel. You can see the videos of everything we've been doing lately, where applicable. And like I just was mentioning, Patreon is a great way to support us monetarily if you would be so inclined. We have a couple of extra bonus episodes, and we also have lovely items up as well, depending on the patronage level you would be willing to donate to. So head on over to patreon.com/BrewSpeakPod. Check it out and let us know what you would like to hear us do for a Patreon episode. We're still kind of green to the whole thing, so if you have suggestions, we'll definitely take them into consideration. And for the Brewtally Speaking Podcast, I am John.
And I am Dan.
And we will talk to you all next time.